Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Mostly Sports Talk. I'm Ken Allison, and today, along with me is Lake Morris of the Anderson Independent Mail, and we're going to be talking high school sports around the Anderson County upstate area of South Carolina, and a little bit about the other areas in South Carolina because of the horrible flooding. Some changes have been made in, the playoffs and other things. And Lake will have with him the rankings in all the state categories as we go along today. So, okay, welcome, Lake, and glad to have you with us.
Glad to be back as always.
And hope that everything's working out with the weather. Didn't affect us, did it really?
No, did not at all.
All our games got played.
Everything is still on schedule for us here. We got very fortunate, like we said last week. Earlier this week, the lower part of the state, they are stacking games right now this week. There were some games played Monday night. They're probably going to have to play again Friday night. So they're playing 2 games in a week down there.
And I understand that there are some cases, and I forgot the name of the school. I saw this on the internet. Some schools down there that people couldn't even get to yet, and the kids that go to school had lost everything in flooding around their homes. So they've had a tragedy, and it's hard for them to concentrate on football, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or volleyball or whatever.
Yeah, any sport. Conway is one of the teams right now. They're missing 2 players. They have since moved. Their families have moved, been displaced to other areas, so they can't play right now.
The players themselves are not missing.
Yes.
Their families have,
yeah,
okay.
The players are still fine, but since their house was basically lost, they've been displaced and they've moved away. So they are not actually able to play right now. So that was something that the Conway coach said. He's like, I'm trying to, get who I can to come play right now because I'm not sure which of my players are still here in the district and which other ones have moved out and gone elsewhere just because they don't have a house right now. So
my goodness, wow.
There's like we said when this first happened, this is not going to be a 1-week thing. This is going to be, excuse me, it's going to be weeks. In fact, last night the high school league announced that the volleyball playoff starts have been pushed back a week.
Oh, they have too.
Yes,
okay.
They've been pushed back a week.
I understand that. Yes.
The football playoffs, they've been pushed back a little bit. So, no word if that's going to affect the start of basketball and wrestling season.
Okay, I was having here's something else. I was having a conversation with some former football coaches yesterday, Jim Frazier and Wayne Jones, and they said that how does this affect, by pushing back the playoff, how does this affect the Shrine Bowl team?
Like I said, that has not been made apparent.
I don't know when Shrine Bowl is supposed to start.
I believe it starts end of December, maybe early January. I'm not entirely sure.
I think it's December.
I believe you're right. There's been no word of how that's going to be affected for all this. While that's not specifically a high school league issue, they've really dragged their feet on this one.
I'm not a fan of the high school league, so we won't go into all that.
Yeah, but there's been no word about how this is going to affect the Shrine Bowl, the North-South game, North-South game, that's played down at the beach, is it not? Or they moved?
Yeah, it's played at Myrtle Beach.
So there's no word about how that's been affected. There's no word on how the Shrine Bowl is right now. I think they're probably trying to figure out things now themselves. But all we do know is that the football teams in the lower part of the state this week are stacking games up to catch up.
Okay.
The playoffs have been pushed back a week. So that just and there's, like we said earlier, there's no definitive answer of how and or if this is going to affect the start of wrestling and basketball season, especially for those smaller schools where they're going to be lucky to find 10 guys that aren't on the football team to play basketball.
Yeah.
So
right.
This is still an ongoing story, and I'm basically talking almost every few days with my I guess we're going to call my equals down at the lower part of the state and see what's going on down there. So it's a mess right now, just to say the least. It's an absolute mess. Like I said, we won't get into how the high school league has completely botched this, but they've botched it pretty much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But this is, it was a hard situation to make a decision in. There is a right decision, and they still have not made it.
Okay, we will now move on and talk about what has happened around our area. Region 1 4A tightened up a little bit, I think, last week.
I would like to say one thing before we before we hit football. Wanted to give a little congratulations out. I mentioned it in my column this week to Teal, Hannah, and Crescent.
Yes, right.
I know we don't talk about volleyball much here, but Hannah and Crescent won the region titles for their respective conferences. Hannah in 1 4A and Crescent down in Region 2 2A. They locked up region titles last week with a week to go in the season. So very good job by them. This is the first time in a long time Hannah has been able to win that region, because Hillcrest has just been so dominant in it the past few years.
Yeah, it's almost been impossible to anybody else to even compete.
Yes, and so big wins for them. They get the first region titles for the area so far this sports calendar year. Also keep an eye out for the Teal Hannah girls tennis team. They're looking like they are in position to win the region again. They topped Greenville last week. They got a win over Greenwood earlier this week, so they got one more match in region play. If they win that one, they win it outright. So that'll give Hannah 2 region titles early on this calendar year.
Fantastic.
And another one to watch is Palmetto Cross Country. They are very good at cross country over there. They're definitely a contender to win the Western 3A cross country title this year. So we area could see a lot of region champions this year, I think, for the overall calendar year for this school year.
Okay.
But like I said, that's all. We'll get off that and get to the sport.
That's okay now. We're here to talk sports, and it doesn't necessarily have to be football. I am one who has always tried to promote the high schools in every way that I could down through all these 100 years or so that I have been in broadcasting. So, that's fine with me.
But and just to finish up, Pickens has won Western 3A volleyball this year again. They're an early favorite for a state title run again. And as far as Skyline 2A, Liberty and Powdersville look like they were early contenders for it, but it looks like Landrum's going to win that region this year over in, I'd say the border of North Carolina, because that's basically where they are. So.
Right, yeah.
But 2 out of 4 region champions in volleyball ain't too bad for a county this size.
No, it isn't.
I don't think.
Right.
But we'll get into football. As you said, the Region 1 4A, it tightened up a little bit at some spots, but it also got more of a pecking order this past weekend. Westside and Lawrence are now at first place in the region, tied.
And they play 2 weeks, I think.
They play in 2 weeks. Could be a battle for first place. Lawrence has to beat Hillcrest this Friday, though.
Oh.
So that, we may not get that battle for first place.
Yeah.
But, Hannah and Hillcrest and Greenwood are now tied for third place at 2-1 apiece. And Woodmont, Greenville, and Easley are still looking for their first win in region at 0-3 apiece.
Now, to get into the playoffs, I know sometimes a lot of schools with losing records actually get into playoffs.
Yes.
And I don't know what it is at this point. Do you know, do they go by the finishers in your league, or is it still the point system that they go by? For
this year, in 4A, and 4A is the only one that uses the point system.
Okay.
That's going away after this year, of course. Default setting is that they're going to go by region standing, so the top 4 teams get in.
Okay.
If there is a tie between them, and it's a lot of really funny math.
It goes to head, too, doesn't it?
It goes head-to-head. If that doesn't work, or I think that comes into play if there's a 3-way tie for a position.
Okay.
If the head-to-head doesn't work out, then they'll go to that points system where, again, what your non-region schedule will either help or hurt you in that situation.
Okay, yeah.
But with the way this region is shaping up, I don't think the points are going to come into play here. And, of course, with this region, it's typically a favorite. If there is a wild card seed for the number 1 5 seed out of the 4 regions in the upper state, for whatever reason, the team in Region 1 always seems to get that seed. Mm-hmm. But I don't see the points. Again, I don't see the points playing a big role this year. Thankfully, they're getting away with it and doing away with it next year because it is convoluted and it's confusing. But right now, the region is shaping up pretty well. That battle for third and fourth is going to be really interesting these next 2 weeks. Big key games for all three of those teams in third place coming up. But like I said, we can get into the results from last week.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Who do you want to start with?
Well, let's start. I think we need to start with Hannah because I thought Hannah had that ball game in their pocket. And down at Lawrence is tough, especially there. But I thought Hannah's got this thing,
It looked like it. I was getting some Twitter returns from a parent down there who was watching the game and keeping me up to date on it. And I thought they had it heading into the third quarter, but apparently Lawrence was just able to get a defensive stop when they needed it. Something a lot of teams have not been able to do this year against Hannah, stop them on offense.
Yeah.
And but again, that one side of the ball, the defense for Hannah has not really been able to completely stop teams this year, and they were not able to get a key stop when they needed it this last week. And Hannah loses 47-35. In a game where Alex Meredith threw for 330 yards and I believe 3 or 4 touchdowns, but he had 3 interceptions. So
yeah.
You have to think if they don't have those interceptions, he may throw 5 or 6, maybe 7 touchdowns in that game. So definitely a game where Hannah kind of shot themselves in the foot, I think. But also, again, that defense has been for a team that can score that many points, the defense has to find a way to at least get 3 stops a game to give them a chance to win. This week, they're going to have a chance. They welcome Greenwood.
You may know this, and you can correct me. I don't think Hannah's beaten Greenwood since 1996.
I would not dispute you on that.
Yeah, I don't think they have. But at least they got him at home, right?
Yes, it's at home at Fraser Field.
Okay.
They do tend to play better there, but this is and this is also a year to do it because Greenwood is, excuse me, my phone won't stop.
Yeah, I had that problem yesterday when Cobb and I were.
Apparently my Twitter just absolutely exploded for some reason. I'll find that out later.
All right.
But I didn't post anything of merit on there. I just said where I'm going for volleyball tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a big game for Hannah against Greenwood this Friday. I'll be at it. This is the year for Hannah to beat Greenwood finally. This is their year to do it. Greenwood's a little down. And this is probably one of the best offenses Hannah has had, in my opinion, since Tyler Brennan was there at quarterback under the last year or two of the Scott Parker era.
Yes, well, that sounds about right. I think I was still broadcasting the games on cable along about that time, but that sounds right.
And
yeah.
You have to remember that team had Tyler Brennan, who I think is the school record holder for quarterback there. Probably won't be there when Alex Meredith is done at Hannah, but
sure.
We'll see.
Right.
That team also had Quentin Payton, who played at NC State.
Sure did, yep.
Cameron Ford, who played at
Wake
Forest.
And is now out at the school.
Yes, he's now a coach out there. So that team had a lot of talent, and I believe Will Gay was on that team, who is now a
running back at Wofford. Yes.
So there is a lot of talent on that squad.
Boy, there's a story we won't get into. Wofford last week, but continue now with Hannah.
So yeah, this is a big week for Hannah. Both teams, as we say, come in 2-1 in the region. This game has heavy playoff implications for seedings. If Hannah loses this game, it doesn't knock them out of the playoffs picture at all, but it does make it harder for them to get a favorable seed. If they lose this game, they're looking at possibly a 4 seed, and then it puts even more emphasis on that Hillcrest game coming up later.
Yeah, I was going to say the Hillcrest to go
because if they want to make the playoffs, they cannot lose to Lawrence, Hillcrest, and Greenwood. Because those teams are likely going to be the 3 teams they're competing against for a playoff spot. And
they still got to play Westside.
Yes, they still have to play Westside at the end of the year. So this is it could be a very good year for Hannah statistically, and it has been a better year for them. This is definitely a rebound year from last season. But I've talked to Coach Allis. They want to make the playoffs this year.